Yes, good day, grade 11 life science students. Today we want to talk about functions of the gaseous exchange system. Actually, it is it the primary function of the gaseous exchange system is to facilitate. It actually helps to facilitate the intake of oxygen and also the removal of carbon dioxide. That is the key function of the gaseous exchange system, and the process which is also known as respiration. It's essential for providing the oxygen that is needed, plus oxygen that is needed to the body cells, and also eliminating the carbon dioxide, which is the waste product of respiration. So gas exchange in the lungs, especially in the alveoli, which we say that is where gaseous exchange takes place, where oxygen diffuses into the bloodstream, uh, and carbon dioxide moves from the blood into the air sacs to be exhaled. So basically, we are talking about the process of how the gaseous exchange occurs, the taking in of oxygen, diffusing from the bloodstream, diffusing into the bloodstream from the alveoli, and also carbon dioxide moving from the bloodstream into the air sacs. So therefore, it can be released. So oxygen uptake, the it also gaseous exchange, we are saying it allows oxygen uptake. That is one key function, that it ensures oxygen from inhaled air reaches the bloodstream. That is what is important. Oxygen is needed for the survival of the cells. This oxygen is then transported to the red blood cells. I guess this is the norm, so to say they are the carriers of oxygen in the body to all parts of the body where it is used for cellular respiration, which we know very well that it is used for what? For cellular respiration, oxygen, in order for us to have the byproduct that we talked about, what? In order for us to have the carbon dioxide that we talked about, to say that it is produced after the process has occurred. So now, uh, carbon dioxide removal is the end product. He said it's a byproduct of respiration. So it is the gaseous exchange system facilitates the removal of this waste from the body. So carbon dioxide diffuses, it moves from the tissues into the bloodstream and is transported to the lungs and then exhaled into the atmosphere. I'm sure this we have already explained it again quite a lot. And then another importance of gaseous exchange is the balancing of carbon dioxide and what oxygen, which is the homeostatic process. By regulating the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide, the gaseous exchange system, it plays an important role, a very pivotal role in maintaining the body's internal balance, the homeostasis that we talked about. We are saying maintaining oxygen and carbon dioxide, oxygen and carbon dioxide in the lower limit or narrow limits of its narrow limit is what we call, or what we want to understand and refer to as homeostasis. And then gaseous exchange in lungs and tissue. So gas exchange occurs at it occurs at two main sites, which is one, external respiration in the alveoli, which is through the alveoli surface. We are seeing exchange of gases between the air and the alveoli, between the air in the alveoli and the blood. That is external gaseous exchange. And then we have got two, which occurs internal respiration between the blood tissue, between the blood and the tissues, the blood or the blood capillaries and the tissues, exchange of gas between the blood and the tissue, the body tissues. It's an internal gaseous exchange process that we are going to talk about. So at the alveoli, the exchange of gas in the lungs at the alveolar surface, it is where gaseous exchange in the lungs, specifically in the alveolar surface, is the process where oxygen moves from the inhaled air into the blood glass, and carbon dioxide moves from the blood into the air. So we are talking about the exchange here, the carbon dioxide moving out and oxygen entering at the alveolar surface. So the crucial exchange happens via a diffusion, which we said is through a concentration gradient that we have been always talking about, the differences in amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide driven by differences in the gas concentration, the partial pressure gradient that we are talking about. So between the alveoli and the capillaries, it actually creates a space for the movement of oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. So the air entering the alveoli after inhalation has a high oxygen concentration, which is to alveoli after the air entering the alveoli after inhalation. It has got more carbon dioxide, more oxygen compared to oxygen concentration in the blood of the air surrounding the capillaries, which is creating the partial concentration gradient that we are talking about. The partial concentration gradient, concentration level difference that we are talking about, it is because there is a difference in terms of the oxygen concentration in the air that is inhaled versus the air that is in the versus the oxygen in the concentration of the blood surrounding the capillaries. So inhaled air has lower carbon dioxide. Obviously, the inhaled air entering, we are saying it has less carbon dioxide concentration than the blood in the surrounding capillaries. That is why carbon dioxide is able to move outside, to move, to move outside the body. It is caused because of the differences in the concentration levels that we are talking about. Entering air, inhaled air, it has got less carbon dioxide, hence enables the movement of air. It enables the movement of carbon dioxide outside the body because there is less of carbon dioxide outside than the carbon dioxide that is in. Hence, that variation, it causes the movement of air outside. So it results in diffusing or removing of oxygen from the alveoli into the bloodstream and carbon dioxide also moving from the blood back into the alveoli for exhalation. That is basically the process or the gradient that we are referring to. So the structure of the alveoli and the capillaries, the lungs contain millions of tiny air sacs that we call the alveoli, which are surrounded by a network of blood capillaries. So the vast surface area of the alveoli, coupled with the thin walls of both the alveoli and the capillaries, facilitate efficient gas exchange. We are talking about the functioning of the alveoli. What are the structural suitability of the alveoli and the capillaries for gaseous exchange or for diffusion? So the alveoli and the capillary walls are thin. They are very thin, creating a short distance, a small distance, creating a small distance for gases to travel further, enhancing what? Further promoting the diffusion, further promoting the diffusion that we are talking about there. So the process of diffusion, what happens? Oxygen that is inhaled, that is breathed in, oxygen-rich air fills the alveoli. The oxygen diffuses across the alveolar and capillary walls into the bloodstream, where it binds to the hemoglobin in the red blood cells. This is quite factual that the red blood cells are responsible for the carrying of what? Carrying of oxygen. So carbon dioxide simultaneously, which is a byproduct of cellular activity, diffuses from the blood into the alveoli to be also exhaled. So this movement of gas is driven by a principle of diffusion, which we say that a variation in terms of the concentration gradient, to say there we have got more and then we have got less there. So there is a movement towards where it is less, which can cause that concentration, which can cause that gaseous movement. So high concentration to lower concentration movement. So I'm just giving an instance of saying in this area we have got too much of oxygen, which is from the outside. Hence, it is able to move also into the lungs there. So factors affecting gaseous exchange, factors that are affecting gaseous exchange. One, we are saying it is the alveolar ventilation. The rate at which air moves in and out of the lungs influences the concentration of gases in the alveoli, therefore the efficiency of gaseous exchange, which is just a straightforward point that we can understand here, that how much air is moving in and out actually defines the concentration levels in the alveoli, which can actually cause to say wherein it is more or it is less, then the gaseous exchange process follow also the suit. And then we said number two, the perfusion, which is the flow of blood through the capillaries surrounding the alveoli, which is also very important. So adequate blood supply or blood flow ensures that oxygenated blood can be transported to the rest of the body, and that carbon dioxide can be efficiently removed also because of the flow of blood which is oxygenated. And then diffusion capacity, that is the thickness in the surface area of the alveolar and the capillary walls affect how easily the gases move across. We say that there is a thick wall that is actually there is a thick wall that makes the diffusion efficient and fast. That's what we have already mentioned in the previous point there. So importance of gaseous exchange, this has already been mentioned. Gaseous is important for the delivery of oxygen to all body cells, for cellular respiration that we have also talked about, and then the removal of carbon dioxide. It's also important for maintaining of the homeostatic balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen, which we also have mentioned already. And then we have the gaseous exchange at the alveolus. This is basically one of the key areas which students you are asked. You need to understand that we have got the oxygen moving inside. Oxygen, it is inhaled, and then we have got also air moving out. The out one, we are saying it is what? It is carbon dioxide. So now what we need to understand is that the blood flow, we have got one, blood flow in oxygen, and blood, it is low in oxygen and high in carbon dioxide. It is in the what? It is in the blood capillaries. It is low of oxygen. It has got less of oxygen and also high of carbon dioxide. So therefore carbon dioxide must move. Carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood to be exhaled, moving out of the blood. Therefore, that is why we see these arrows are showing carbon dioxide that is moving outside the blood or out of the blood capillaries into the alveoli. So therefore, it can also be able to be what? To be breathed out. Because we have got low oxygen, oxygen must enter. We have got oxygen entering, which is gases dissolve in the moist mucus lining. And then because we have got low oxygen, we said there is low oxygen in here. Hence, what happens is that there is a concentration gradient that allows oxygen to diffuse into the blood. We have got oxygen entering into the blood because there is low oxygen there. So oxygen is able to move, and then there is more of carbon dioxide into the blood. It moves also outside. So there is an exchange of movement, which is shown by arrow 1 versus arrow number 2. Arrow number 1 is showing movement of out, which is showing carbon dioxide. And then arrow number 2, it is showing inward movement, inhalation, which is showing oxygen diffusion inside or into the blood. So oxygen is transported around the body by the red blood cells that we talked about. The red blood cells now carries the oxygen around the body, and then we said that high blood will end up having blood high in oxygen and low in carbon dioxide, because now the oxygen is needed. We are saying the oxygen is needed inside the body. For what? It is needed for respiration. It is needed for homeostasis also. It is needed for homeostasis and also the balancing, as well as we are saying for the survival of the cells of the body. So now what we need to understand is that this oxygen carbon dioxide concentration causes or defines uh, it defines the carbon dioxide oxygen movement that we are talking about. So as you see there, we need to know that in top on top here, we can talk about saying on top here, we have got ventilation. We have got ventilation on top there, which creates a steep concentration gradient for carbon dioxide. Ventilation, it creates a, a steep concentration gradient. It creates a concentration gradient of what? Of carbon dioxide and oxygen. Of oxygen, carbon dioxide variation that we can see there on number one. And then what happens again is that we said one other thing that we need to understand is that there is what? There is good blood supply, which is also in the what? There is good blood supply here. Here we are saying there is good blood supply, which is being provisioned by the what? By the capillary there. So the good blood supply also, it also creates a steep concentration gradient for oxygen carbon dioxide. Good blood supply also creates a concentration gradient for both carbon dioxide and oxygen there. And then one thing that we need to know, we said that there is law of what? Of oxygen that we have already mentioned in the beginning there. And then one other thing is that the capillary wall, one other thing is that the capillary wall is we are saying the capillary wall, it is actually thick, giving a short diffusion distance. We have got the capillary wall is thick for short diffusion distance. For short diffusion distance that must be created. We talked about that again previously. The capillary wall is thick also for short diffusion distance, which we can also see that the alveolus wall, it is also thick. The alveolus wall, which is this one, the alveolus wall, it is also thick for the same purpose again. The alveolus wall is also thick for also promoting a short diffusion distance again between the gases that we are talking about. The alveolus wall class, it is also thick to provide a short diffusion distance that we are talking about with regard to this gaseous exchange. So understand again that there is again on top here, I can want to identify and illustrate to you that we have got also a moisture layer. We have got also a moisture layer, layer of moisture, which is also found, a layer of moisture here, a layer of moisture, which we say that it is also facilitating the moisturization of air as it enters. So please, let's just take note of this so then we can be able to understand the gaseous exchange that we have talked about. So all the factors that I've been talking about, they are identified. The large surface area, which allows more gas molecules to diffuse simultaneously, increasing the overall rate of oxygen and rate of exchange, which actually we have got these millions of air and then greatly increasing the surface area available for gas exchange. And then we can also talk about the thick walls, like the single cell thick lining of the alveoli, minimizing the distance that gases need to travel, speeding up diffusion. That I've already been illustrating with this. The capillary wall and the alveolus wall, they are thick enough. I mean, they are thin enough to allow they are thin enough to allow quick diffusion or to shorten the diffusion distance. That is also a very important point that we cannot omit there. Good ventilation, I said that there is also ventilation. We said there is good ventilation on top there, which is also providing fresh air to constantly come in the lungs and then the stale air to be moved out. We have got good ventilation, which is also maintaining a concentration gradient that is favoring what diffusion that we have talked about. And then there's good blood supply that I've already mentioned here. Again, good blood supply that I've mentioned here. There is good blood supply, which is also ensuring that there is a dense network of capillaries that surrounds the alveoli, ensuring that continuous flow of blood to carry away oxygen and deliver carbon dioxide is taking place. And then a moist surface again, which actually needs to dissolve the liquid before they can diffuse across the respiratory membrane. Therefore, it actually, like a lining of alveoli, is essential for efficient gaseous exchange. So questions might arise which you can ask to explain the efficiency and the structural suitability of the alveolus or of the alveoli to perform its function. These are the points that you are giving, class. These are the points that you are giving here. These are the points that you must mention in order for you to get your marks with regards to how is the alveolus suited for performing its function. We are talking about these bulleted board points that we have talked about that. So gaseous exchange between the blood and the tissue, the last point. The cells will have a high carbon dioxide concentration due to continuing respiration, and then the carbon dioxide moves out of the cells and diffuses into the blood and transported back to the heart, then lungs to be exhaled. I guess this I have already mentioned. And then carbon dioxide is transported from the cells to the alveoli, where it is removed from the body, and the air is in the alveoli will be exhaled and more carbon dioxide than the air which is exhaled there. So it's some of the point that I want you to just take note of. And then this is the structure that I've just given you uh, of the blood exchange, or the we are saying the exchange of gas between the blood and the tissue is some of these things that you might sometimes see. So food substances, we are saying they are absorbed from the blood. So blood from the heart, and then we are saying it is coming in, and then we have got oxygen is taken into these are the tissues. These are the tissues, and obviously we are talking about what? Of the capillaries here. So what happens is that food substances are carried around the body and then assimilated into the blood, into the tissues, and then carbon dioxide also moves from the tissues into the what? Into the bloodstream, and then is taken to the heart, and then we also have the body cells, which also we say that one cell thick capillaries, which would also allow the diffusion that we have mentioned in the first place there. So we also have the last summary, which talks about the composition of the inspired and expired gases. We have got the type of gas, the inspired air, and then we have got the expired air, and the reasons why it is like that. The explanation is the reasons for variation. So oxygen is one. We have got inspired air. It is actually having more carbon dioxide. Inspired, we are saying inhaled air has got 21% of oxygen, and then 16% of in the expired air, because it is used in the what? Because it is used during respiration. During respiration, oxygen is used, and therefore it can be less when it is in the exhaled air. And then carbon dioxide, there is always less of carbon dioxide in the air that is breathed in, 0.04%, versus when it is breathed out, we are saying it is more when it is breathed, it is more in exhaled air because it is produced during respiration. I'm sure remember that it is a byproduct. It is a byproduct of what? Of respiration. I'm sure you still remember that it is a byproduct of respiration, hence it becomes more when it is breathed out. And then nitrogen, it is constant in both cases, inside when it is taken in and outside, because it is not used or produced by any body processes. And then finally, water vapor. Water vapor is variable because it varies depending on humidity. In terms of the air that is breathed in, it depends with the atmospheric moisture. We are saying it is depending on the availability of moisture in the air at a given time. Availability of what? Of moisture in the air, in the air at a given time. So that is why you see it varies, because when the air is on a very hot day, the air is dry. So it tends to be moisture in terms of the inhaled air. We are saying it can be very less on a hot day because the air is kind of dry than when it is a humidity, rain, cloud day, it tends to be high. But when we look at exhaled, it is going to be saturated because we also know that it is a byproduct. It is a byproduct of what? Of respiration. When respiration occurs, water is also given out. That is why you see when we breathe out, air is the exhaled air is actually saturated, and then moisture evaporates from the surface of the alveoli, which is why you see even now in this winter cold times, when you breathe early in the morning, there is a lot of heat and moisture that comes out of our body because of the thermoregulation process where the air, where the body is trying to maintain and reach out to keep the body functional. So basically, this is the composition of the inhaled and exhaled air that we need to talk about and understand. So the percentage variations are because of this reason that I've given you here. So the explanations here is actually what I have explained in the what, according to the table that I've given there. So I've just written a further explanation below for you just to take note of this. So class, thank you very much for your time, and basically keep connected by subscribing and sharing and as well as liking our video. Don't forget that Metric Hub runs from grade 8 up to grade 12, and so after up to post-metric, then we can still be together until and lifelong learning. All the best once again.